Alright, today our project is going to be the Krauss Maffei ML4000 made by AHM back in the 70s. I really love this model, and I happen to have 4 of them. Here's one that I redid a couple years ago, and it has this type of motor configuration that we've seen in the BL2. When these things work, they're really smooth. This one happens to be missing its weight bundle, which goes in the back here. That is a critical component to these locomotives and the BL2 and some other of these Rivarossi type locomotives, because this one here, it's been sitting idle for a number of years, so it needs to be kind of cleaned up. But they're really smooth, they're really quiet, they've got traction tires, and they've got the dreaded pizza cutter flanges. Yep, those are it. If you've never seen them before, these are the ones we're talking about. Krauss Maffei, the U25C, they have these. Fortunately, I run code 100 because I have a lot of U25Cs and I love them. And I also like these Krauss Maffeis. And they use those pizza cutters. I'll tell you one thing about the pizza cutters, they stay on the track pretty good. And they will negotiate turnouts quite nicely. But what we're going to do is I recently got some more of these Krauss Maffeis on eBay to add to my collection, and 2 of them, I got 3 of them, and none of them work, but 2 of them had been turned into dummies just by the removal of the vertical motor, and I want to restore them to full power. And when I do the full power, I am going to use one of my favorite things, the 24-volt motor. This is the single shaft motor. This is the one we're using in the 10 Shoto SD24 brass. And this on the end here is this worm gear, which came out of one of these grab bags, is what they look like on eBay, of small plastic gears. They come with an assortment of worms, and so I bought a number of these bags. They always come with basically the same stuff. They happen to have this one long worm, which is perfect for this thing. It fits in here just right. It goes directly on the shaft of the motor. Surprisingly, here's one thing that you're going to be surprised about. HO scale trains, the motors in them, there's only like 2 different shaft sizes, unless it's something really, really strange. There's a third one, there's a tiny one. But generally there are 2 different shaft sizes. The big one, like the Athearn blue box, and the normal size one, which I think is a 2mm, which comes in almost every single robot application, and drones, these things, all these things that have little tiny motors. But these things are also found in those things that roll your windows up and down in your car? How about the things that lock the doors? Motorized mirrors and things. They have these tiny little motors, and they're supposed to be pretty robust because they got to withstand weather changes and things like that. And they're really pretty smooth. The downside with those automotive ones is they usually have kind of a low RPM. And my sort of rule of thumb is 1,000 RPM per volt at 12 volts, 12,000 RPMs. Well, this motor at 24 volts is around, it's not much, it's about 12,000 RPM. So it's a little bit slower than I would like. Because at 12 volts, it's gonna, well, on a DC layout, you can expect to pull, your power supply should be putting out 16 to 20 volts. I've got some that do more, some that do less. And so you get about 16,000 RPMs, and that'll be decent for this motor, for this build. The original motor this sucker here is probably around 20,000 RPMs. And this is a big heavy motor. I don't like them for the fact of their arrangement. And this is a variation on the old school open frame motor that they've been making since the 1930s. It's really reliable, so I'm not going to toss it. I may use it for something else. Something out in the open where I can use it that needs a nice, quiet, big electric motor. This is not too bad. We'll save it in our motor pile. But anyways, so since this is a Rivarossi, one of the things about Rivarossis is they are like brass locomotives with some complicated gear arrangements. These axles actually have brass gears on them. This is the middle one because it's got two. One for the worm and one for these intermediate gears, these idlers and stuff. And they have kind of robust trucks. Pretty interesting. So naturally I'm going to keep these. I'll also tell you about these shells. I like these shells. I'm not going to go through and shave off all of the grab irons and stuff. I'm going to leave it basically the way it is. But I am stripping the paint. I'm not saving the paint. These aren't that rare. They're, at $50 on eBay for a buy it now. They aren't that hard to get that I'm trying to preserve it. No, I'm stripping the paint off. The paint is extremely thin on these. I mean, this paint is really, there's no primer under it. It does come off in 91% alcohol, but it takes a long time. I'm going on 2 days already, and I can scrape now with my fingernail. I can scrape paint off, but it will not come off with the toothbrush yet. So it could take a lot of elbow grease. They have a nice window set in them, which I don't want to damage. I'm going to keep that. And as you can see, there's a ton of room inside the body. So I'm probably going to do some LED lights in here or something. And they're pretty heavy with just this amount of weight in them. Otherwise, the rest of this body is wide open. This would be the engine. If you ever wanted to put in a good sound system, this thing could hold a big sound system in it. And they're super easy for DCC. There is nothing to this thing. It gets its pickup from the front trucks by wire, not through the frame. One of the axles in the powered truck has a little pickup on it. That's it. So you got lots of room, lots to play with in here. And so our first step we're going to do on this is we're going to start a workshop notepad. And today is the 6th of April. So I'm going to note the date. And I'm going to note that this is an AHM Rivarossi ML 4000, also known as the Krauss Maffei. Okay, I do these little notepads to make sure I know what I'm doing. Alright, now I've got this one apart. Let's get to washing our parts and cleaning up. That's our first step. We don't want to lose any parts. I keep them on this little microfiber cloth, but they're really greasy, and we need to clean these wheels. We're going to put the wheels in our wheel set jig and paint the ends of them. We're going to clean all these gears and get these trucks kind of back together so that we're ready to roll on this. But in the meantime, we need to do a lot of washing of parts.